The 2026 Winter Olympic Games may mark one of the biggest milestones for women's ice hockey, ever. Why is that? Let me spell it out for you. The 2026 Milan-Cortina Winter Olympic Games marks the first Olympics since the launch of the Professional Women's Hockey League. The PWHL, launched in 2023, now consists of 8 teams spread across Canada and the United States. That means for the first time, many of the top women playing hockey in Italy are full-time professional athletes. And that means in a historic first, this will be the first Winter Olympics with across-the-board collaboration from professional leagues in both men's and women's ice hockey. To truly understand the impact that the PWHL has on hockey, it's important to understand what underpins the success of the league. Mainly, a new business model. Okay, what marks the difference between the PWHL and previous versions of professional women's leagues in the past, like the CWHL active 2007 to 2019 and the Premier Hockey Federation active 2015 to 2019? One big thing, these leagues did not pay players a salary, but instead opted for stipends or honorariums, if at all. And it's hard to play hockey professionally when you're working another job or going to school. So hundreds of prominent women's hockey players banded together, forming the Professional Women's Hockey Player Association, boycotting leagues without salaries or financial stability, and garnering sponsors and interest in the cause between 2019 and 2023. In 2023, the PWHL was then founded with a collective bargaining agreement between the league and that same players association. This separate organization advocates for salaries and the rights of players within the league, with a player representative from every team. So, paying players, it's working. Go figure, when you pay players a salary, the hockey gets better. Ticket sales are only growing, and we've seen the addition of 2 new teams for the 2025-2026 season, the Vancouver Golden Eyes and the Seattle Torrent. Okay, so the PWHL is doing well. That's cool. What does that mean for the Olympics? Well, first and foremost, it means there are more professional women's hockey players making a salary than ever before. But to be clear, a salary doesn't mean what we may assume. According to the collective bargaining agreement, no player is to earn less than $35,000 USD, and every team must have an average salary of $55,000 USD with a 3% increase year over year, and a minimum of 6 players on every team need to make over $80,000 USD. So the data on player salaries is not public information unless the players have decided to disclose, which most have not. But with some creative math, we are able to visualize what a team's salary distribution could look like based on those collective bargaining agreement guidelines. Something like this. This chart shows us it is very likely that there are many PWHL players still making less than a livable wage in their respective cities. This is still better than ever before for women's hockey, but these salaries pale in comparison to NHL salary ranges and practically disappear off the charts when we include the NHL's highest paid players. Nonetheless, there have never been more eyes on women's hockey, from brands to scouts, coaches, and fans. Women's hockey is getting more attention. Finally. Here in Canada, that means players have far more opportunities to be on the ice in front of fans and to match up against the best of the best, showing off their skills and pushing each other further. The all-stars like Poulin, Spooner, and Nurse get to keep their skills sharp, competing against newer and younger talent. The league is also finding players that otherwise might not get the opportunity to be considered for the Canadian national team. Players like Daryl Watts, Sophie Jakes, and Katie Tabin have all taken their shots in the PWHL and are now on the roster for Team Canada. As for timelines, though, Team Canada is only finalized in January 2026, which means they'll have way less time to build cohesion as a team. The PWHL only breaks for the Olympics January 29th, and the first game in Milan is slated for February 5th. This means that national team players are having to squeeze in training together in between PWHL games. Usually, national teams are training together year-round, and we're seeing the impact of this already. Team Canada's women's team performed rather abysmally in the rivalry series against the US. They lost all 4 games and lost 10-4 in Edmonton on December 10th, 2025. The PWHL is also changing the landscape for women's hockey internationally, with PWHL players on national teams in the US, Finland, Sweden, Czechia, and Switzerland. For the US national team, this is to be expected. For more on the long and dramatic rivalry between Canada and the US's women's hockey teams, check out our video on just that. But the league is also closing the talent gap between Canada and the United States and the rest of the world. Players are coming to the PWHL internationally, and this is growing the game for women around the world. For example, the Czechia national team is making historic gains and qualifying for the Olympics for only the second time ever, with their own PWHL players on the roster. So through greater salaries, better and more competitive hockey, bigger audiences, stability, and more resources, the PWHL will have a significant impact on women's ice hockey at the Olympics, with some logistical downsides like less prep time for national team cohesion and more chances of player injury ahead of the games. And even though the path ahead doesn't look super bright for Canada's women's team, there is no doubt that this year will be a monumental year of growth for women's ice hockey globally, largely thanks to the PWHL. I'm Kel, this is Spelled Out. Thanks so much for watching. For more great content like this, be sure to follow along, and I'll see you next time.